Imagine, you're born with an unnatural talent in archery. The people in your village are so impressed at one point after you win a competition that they build you a flight range isolated in the mountains at your behest, where you can hone your skills even more. Your skills become so well known, especially after you develop a power that no one in your race has ever been able to pull off, that you're recruited by a princess to help defend against an impending calamity. You accept proudly, yet you find out that you're literally just backup for a guy that pulled a sword out of a rock. And then you die. That's what happens to Revali. I'm Lewis Oliver, and I'm here to present Revali, and why he's my favorite character of all time. There are three subjects that I'm going to explain when talking about why Revali is my favorite fictional character of all time. First, his design. Second, his personality. And third, his backstory. Starting off, his design is fantastic. I love his color palette, and I especially love the color of his feathers. I'm also a big bird fan when it comes to character design, so he gets extra points for that. I also really like his braids. I think it's a neat way to give a bird species hair when it comes to anthropomorphic characters, because from all the retro that I've seen, if they have any hair, it's in the back of their head, so it doesn't really take any place for their feathers. The next subject about why I like Revali is his personality. I love characters that when you meet them for the first time, they seem really arrogant and that they don't like the main character, but eventually you just learn that their arrogance is just a mask for their insecurities. It opens up a lot of potential for stories and backstories for the character, and that's especially present in Revali. While none of Revali's backstory is directly stated in canon, a lot of what we can interpret as his backstory makes him a really touching character. As an example, Revali's never really shown to have any family members. All the descendants of the champions are always shown to be related to them in some type of way. For example, Yunobo is Daruk's grandson, Sidon is Mipha's little brother, etc. But Revali doesn't really have any of that. Teba and Tulin are just other Rito warriors that admire Revali like the rest of the village do. With this information, we can likely assume that Revali was an orphan, which in some cases can bring anxiety, self-esteem issues, insecurities, which all manifests in Revali's character. Something else to note is that in Revali's DLC diary, he mentions how he could let the children train at his flight range, which shows that he has a soft spot for kids. That could also tie with him being an orphan, showing that he doesn't want the children in Rito Village to suffer as he did when he was young. When it comes to Revali's insecurities, we don't really see any really in the base game, but in the DLC, that's when they really start to shine through, especially in the memory Revali song. In this memory, we don't really see the Revali we see in the base game. More importantly, we see him failing to use his power, Revali's Gale. That's something that he prided himself on. That was his big achievement, that he was able to do that, create this power that no other Rito could. But there you have it. He's there, failing. This is where we see the true Revali. He's not some cocky and arrogant birdman. He's insecure and he's tough on himself. He even goes to the point of saying that what he's doing isn't enough and he has to try harder, which isn't something you would ever see him say in the base game. Revali basically has the opposite of stage fright, where he thrives off of people's attention, and this is shown as soon as he realizes that Princess Zelda's watching him. He instantly puts on his cocky facade, showing off with a very well-animated view of his archery skills. This cutscene is such a fantastic way of showing two sides of Revali, as it really fleshes out his character and show that he's not just an arrogant asshole. Not only does it show that he's not only working really hard for his powers to even work, it also shows that his cocky and arrogant personality is just a persona to hide all his insecurities and fears. Now, why is Revali my favorite character of all time? He only really has 20 minutes of screen time in the original game, but to me that never really mattered since I could relate to a lot of his problems. I struggle a lot with my own insecurities and feeling like I have to be the best at everything I do, and that's only one thing I relate to when it comes to the silly Birdman. He also means a lot to me. He's been my favorite since I was a little kid, so there's a lot of emotional attachment. I saw him and I loved him ever since. I really do think Revali is a very underrated character by Breath of the Wild fans, like fandom-wise. because they don't really examine his character enough, and they just view him as an arrogant birdman who hates Link for no reason, when he doesn't. He literally says in his Japanese version of his diary that he wanted to start a rivalry with Link. He's such a beautifully written character, and is really the champion of the people, showing that you can be anything as long as you just try.